Let's move on to another chat, because we already mentioned that next week it's E3, the biggest week in the gaming calendar, some would say.
Yep.
And the week that Chris is going to watch all of Game of Thrones while at work. You could do that, right? Yeah, because then I'll have something to add to the podcast next week. Or the week after.
Yeah.
Perfect. Job done.
Lovely. So what's your thoughts about E3? Because we've had a lot of stuff that's been leaked out already.
Yeah, so
a mixture between leaks and, again, just jumping the gun.
Yeah, so because it's a bit difficult, I guess. If you're a publisher and you think, right, it's the entire focus of the world, if you're into games, is on LA at that point. So do you announce your game along with 50 million other games, or do you try and get it out there a bit early so you've got the spotlight on your game only? But the problem that's happened this year, and it's increasingly built up to this point, so many big games have come out and either leaked or been announced already that it's a bit like...
Yeah,
shit,
and it's actually resulted in some kind of awkward moments, like Mortal Kombat and Forza both were announced early, but exactly the same time.
Oh dear.
So everything they planned, everything they planned to try and keep the two apart, and then exactly to the minute.
That's incredible.
Whoopsie.
Tuesday.
See, I guess when E3 started many years ago, the media landscape was completely different. We didn't have social media.
No.
Which is, I guess, why everybody got together in one big building and everybody announced all their games and journalists would go away and write up everything about them. But now that landscape is completely different, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's something like E3 as necessary now.
Well, I think I think for outside of our industry, it helps shine a light on some of the amazing stuff we do. So, the hardware announcements last year, some of the big games, outlets such as the BBC, for example, probably wouldn't give two hoots that, I don't know, Far Cry 4 has been announced. But they will be at E3 and they'll be talking about video games and what a thriving industry is. So it's good for that.
I think Monday as a conference day is quite interesting as well, like having a platform for those big developers, almost kind of setting out an agenda, knowing what they're about for the next year, trying to convey what the future's going to look like, even whether they keep or betray those promises. Getting them, and it's kind of like the Apple keynote or any kind of keynote in any industry where you kind of set out your stall for the year ahead. I think always interesting.
The thing that's different this year, more than any other year, though, is that normally you have those kind of hell yeah moments where it's, one other thing, let's announce this game. So many games have been announced already, is like, what is left? Like Ubisoft traditionally announced a brand new franchise, but The Division is, well, God knows when that's coming out. Rainbow Six Patriots, they announced that, showed footage of that 3 years ago. Still nothing on that. If they announce another game that's coming out in 3-4 years, it's like, well, what's happening?
Yeah.
Well, Assassin's Creed will come out every year until
there's going to be a
so.
mixture. Like, there's the games we already know about. I was almost going into that Donald Rumsfeld.
You were, weren't you? There are known unknowns. There are known knowns, known unknowns, and unknown unknowns.
And then there's Batman Lego 3.
Wow.
So there's games that have got ahead that we know, we've got official wording on, we've got pack shots, we've got trailers. There's games that have been leaked, but we still don't have firm details on them. So like Project Beast, for instance, Halo 5 Guardians, we've been announced, but Project Beast we've seen footage, but we don't have hard details
looks
of what
pretty
it actually
real,
is. Yeah, so I think it's authentic, but we don't know what it really is yet. And then there are still unknown knowns, like Battlefront. Star Wars game.
Star Wars Battlefront,
And then there still will be a few surprises.
So I'm really looking forward to seeing some Star Wars Battlefront stuff.
Yeah.
Because I don't really know that much about it, apart from it's being developed by DICE, and ex-Uncharted lady is working on it, I believe. Is that right? Yeah.
Amy Hennig.
But I've also heard
she's working on a different Star Wars game, actually, the Visceral one.
Okay. Right. So I've also heard that Sony has got a new announcement.
Okay.
Which will be exciting.
Crash Bandicoot. Yeah. Nobody wants Crash Bandicoot.
No.
Some people do, but then you'll give it to them and they actually won't.
No.
Alright, we're making this instead of next Uncharted.
So, some things that, I'm sure that we'll see Uncharted there. I'm sure that we'll see, we know that Far Cry 4 is coming. I'm sure we'll still see footage of it.
There's still lots to be excited about, is that what you're saying?
But it lacks the Kazam moment, which is like, this game is coming. And it's
like BioShock on the Vita.
What?
Do you remember that?
No.
Ken Levine announced that like 2 years ago. Still nothing.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's, part of the charm of being at E3 is being in a room full of loud Americans and watching them lose their shit over something that I couldn't give
Going to IGN head office, Alex.
Apologies to all our American friends who are listening to the podcast presently.
No, because Nintendo,
it's
of
a
course,
fact of life, and most Americans that I've met will happily admit that they get overexcited.
If you happily admit that, let us know.
They really happily admit it. They admit it with a woo.
USA!
Now, Nintendo don't bother going to E3, do they?
Not anymore, now.
Do we know why that is?
No, they are there. They just don't have a press conference.
Right, and why is that then? Because they want to be more in control of what they're doing?
They beam direct into
Budget reasons.
It's not that.
Joking.
It's because they do Nintendo Direct now.
Yeah.
So rather than talking to a room full of overexcited Americans who whoop and holler at the slightest little thing, they beam direct into people's homes to people who whoop and holler at the slightest little thing.
Circumvent the media.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alternatively, they haven't got many games coming out that are exciting. That's not true. Zelda, the new Zelda, will hopefully be very exciting.
Well, we don't really know any of the Nintendo announcements. So that's at least someone, at least one publisher can keep a secret.
Yeah. And that's the difference. So they'll announce stuff at the Nintendo Direct, which I think is penciled in for the Tuesday morning.
Tuesday morning, yeah.
And then the show opens at midday, and then you can go onto the stand and play the game. So, which is, a nice way of doing it.
Alex, if you wanted to watch all of these press conferences and see all the new games,
where could you do such a thing?
I didn't think you could.
GameSpot.
Who?
What?
Amazing.
ign.com.
Yes. Is that ign.com/E3?
We're basically live streaming.
I think it is, yes.
We're basically live streaming for the entire week, so you can watch all the press conferences, pre and post analysis, demoing all the new games. It's going to be crazy.
Will we see you guys on camera?
Yes.
Oh, what are you doing on camera?
Well, I'm looking at everything that EA is releasing. So hopefully Star Wars Battlefront, Battlefield Hardlines, blah, blah, blah.
FIFA.
And then, yeah, of course, yes.
you and Leah.
Yeah, me and Leah are going to talk some, serious FIFA shit, man. It's going to be sweet.
Pre-World Cup. So
I'm doing EA stuff, you're doing
all 2K stuff, so hopefully we'll see more evolve.
Yep.
But yeah, loads of stuff. It's going to be a brilliant week.
Yeah.
And will you be doing a podcast while you're there?
Time permitting. That's the idea. So we're going to hook up with our Aussie pals.
Cool.
And try and do
Basically, are you going to do a
something
podcast? Going to try and get Tristan to do the podcast for us.
Yeah. Tristan, if you're listening, thanks very much.
Brilliant.